All right, everyone. So today we're going to talk about a couple of ideas or a couple different concepts when it comes to web development. We are going to talk, the first topic we're going to kind of talk about is known as a pseudo element. Okay. What is a pseudo element? Well, a pseudo element is when you can use CSS to style a subpart or section of an HTML element. Okay. So to be honest, we're going to get to that, but first we're going to do an example here. So I wanted to show, this is, we're going to have to take your brain and go back to probably the second or third week when I was talking about HTML. And you're going to remember when I was talking about forms, right? And if you remember, we had like buttons and we had something called a checkbox, right? We had something called radio options. And what I'm going to do is preview this here. And, we talked about things like checkboxes here, the ability to sort of turn on and off elements and things like that. This is a slider, which if you go back, or this is what's called a range. So this is all being built and stylized through the browser, in this case, Chrome. Now, its default color is blue, but let's say I wanted to stylize that to a different color. Okay, well, there's actually a CSS element, a newer one, called accent. So what I'm going to do is come into here and say input. Actually, I think I can just put accent color. Accent color. And I don't know, how about we make it red? Okay. So this should affect all inputs, which actually all of these are inputs. They're just different type of inputs. And if I refresh, see how this turns red? Okay. And that's now red, and then that's now red. So, why would this be useful? Well, maybe you have a form and the brand colors of that particular client is green, for instance. Well, maybe you want the little items here to be green, right? So now it's like I could set a specific color for that. Okay. So you can see why that would be useful and why you might want to use that. Do you have to use it? No, but this is just, ways of, adding a little bit of extra style to our page. I talked about the concept of a pseudo element, and the point of a pseudo element is it stylizes a sub part of something. Okay, so my body, what I could do is, let's say I have a paragraph. I'm just going to stylize the text here, and I'm going to preview this. What would happen here is I have, a paragraph and I have red text, right? And, we know that if you highlight, I'm kind of getting this like kind of light blue background here, right? You can actually stylize that background color. Now, defaultly, it's going to be like a light blue kind of color. But what I could do is I could do something like this. This is a pseudo element called selection. And if I set the background color to, I don't know, hot pink. All right, let's refresh. And now when I highlight, see how it's hot pink? Okay. Now, once again, like, do you need to do that? No, you don't have to. But the idea of it is like, if my branding color was hot pink, maybe I kind of want that, or, just a way to sort of not use the default color, which is blue. This is being very specific to this. Maybe I just want to set up a background color in general for my whole page. What I would do is do something like this. This means that, I can set up a background color. I'm going to set up the background color to be maybe like a light green, like a core, kind of a mauve or something Like maybe I want this color green. Okay. I'm going to save. Because I haven't applied this to any one particular tag, it's just going to apply it in general to anything that's been highlighted in my page. So if I come in here and you can see now it's doing that. Okay. Even if I added something afterwards. So let's say I put all this into a p tag. And I have an h1 tag. Even though I have all these different elements, they all should get that same color. If you really want it to be different, like I said, I could have done something here where it's like, okay, maybe the H1 has a background or a selection color of hot pink, and the H2 has a selection color of yellow, and the H3 has a selection color of orange, maybe orange or red. Okay, I save, refresh, hot pink, yellow, and then green. Oops, even the green kind of, oh, whoops, should be, there it goes. Okay, so this is a example of a a pseudo element. What is the pseudo element? Well, the pseudo element is the selection of it. Like there's the normal and then there's the selection. Okay. Another one we could do is I could actually apply. So this is exercise 3, and I'm going to come in here and I have some text here. And if you look at it, there's an H2 and there's a paragraph. What I'm going to do is I can stylize just the first letter of my element. So for instance, here in my H2, I don't want to style the whole element, which would be this. I just want to stylize the first letter, which is this. Okay. So what I could do is I'm going to say H2 first letter. And what that does is it sets a style just for the first letter. So I'm going to set the color of that to maybe be red. And let's change the font to be Arial bold. All right. I'll go back and you can see that it's bigger. Okay. I guess it was already using like that. Maybe I'll set it to Courier or something. There you go. Maybe I'll make that a little bigger. Font size 32. All right. So you can see how this might be kind of interesting. You know, like if this was like the first letter of an article or something. This is sometimes referred to in typographical settings as a drop cap. You might see this in a fancy magazine or something like that. We could do something like that. Um, I'm going to set the first letter of the paragraph here. So I'm going to say P first letter. And I'm going to make it bigger too for font size 42, color hot pink. Okay, so it should only affect the first letter of any paragraph. This is the first letter of any paragraph. And you can see it affects that. Okay. I can even play around with this is like kind of like a drop cap. I did this by floating it. You remember that if you float something, stuff wraps around it. So if I had a lot of text here, my floating of this would wrap around it, kind of like drop caps would in a article or something. See how I kind of did that? Not perfect, but you know, it kind of gets the idea there. In addition, you can actually stylize the first sentence. Okay. So I actually have multiple sentences here. And what I'm going to do is say P first, I think it's first line, sorry, not first sentence. And I'm going to say, okay, the first line, why don't I make the font to be Courier, and I'm going to make the color green. And if I come into here, oops, wrong page. It should affect just the first line, which is this. Oops. So you can see it affected the first line of my paragraph, but not everything, right? You can see how the second part of the sentence was not affected there, which starts here. So once again, it's only working with a subset of the element, this being the subset of this whole element, okay? One last thing, and then, I'll let you guys try this out, is what's called marker. Marker is a newer one, and what it actually allows you to do is set a custom marker for your unordered lists in terms of bullets and things like that. So, you guys are aware of bullets, right? So we've done this before, and to be honest, even if you could actually, there is already an existing CSS element that would affect this. So for instance, I could come in here and say list style type, right? And I could set this to like square or circle or something like that. And we've done that before. So you can see this is square. If I do a circle, it's going to do a hollow circle on the inside there like that. But we could also set a custom bullet. Now we've done this before. It was something called list image type or image list type image. But there's actually a new pseudo class that we can use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into here and I'm going to say colors. So I actually have multiple lists here. So I'm actually going to use the class so I don't affect every list exactly the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use marker. Marker. There we go. Okay. Marker means like what does the bullet marker look like, right? And then what you can essentially do is say something. So I'm going to come in here and say content, and then whatever you want it to be, you can put inside quotation marks. So I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to do a $sign, let's just say. Okay. What this is going to do is replace all of the bullets with $signs. And if I come in here, maybe, did I do it right? Oops, double marker. I might need to do it like this. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So so you can see how it changed it to this. Now, okay, I could do that. I could come in here and, switch this to, the star symbol. Okay. But what's nice is now that you can actually use emojis, you could actually use, something like this. So if I come in here and apply this cherry, see how I'm getting that? So I don't know. Emoji uh enter palette. I don't know all the different emojis if I'm being honest. Yeah, so I'm going to use this emoji. Let's put that here. There you go. Save, and I'm going to go back, and then there you go. Look at that. Fun stuff. Okay. Maybe I'll do the same thing for the states. I don't know if there is an emoji for, maybe there's like a globe one or something. I don't know. I even state. I don't know if there is a state. Not really. I don't know. Globe. I'm just gonna use the globe. And put that there. Okay, let's go back. Okay. And last one, let's do schools. So college or colleges. Oops. Colleges, outline marker, content. Let's take a look. I don't even, once again, you don't have to use emojis. I'm just doing it because they're more fun, but I don't know. College. So let's use a little graduation cap. Oops. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. So that, do you have to do it this way? No, you don't have to. It's just adding a little bit of extra for you. Okay. I might think that these are a little bit close, so I think I can add a little bit of spacing. Margin right, 5 pixels. Maybe not. Maybe padding. Or I lied. Maybe not. Yeah, I have to look it up. But anywho, this is a way I could stylize that. Okay, I want you to try that out. That's exercise 1, 2, 3, and 4.